Tim Walz is out there talking again.
Did he say he could fight any Trump supporter?
Yeah, he says he kicked their ass and they're scared of him because he could fix it.
All right, folks, today's story is a curious one, so stay with me. Imagine this. After being pushed out of the spotlight, Tim Walz is scrambling to reclaim attention. In the process, he's making bold, some might say laughable, claims about his strength and masculinity. He talks as if he's some kind of action hero, larger than life. Enter Joe Rogan, arguably the perfect person to step in and bring things back down to earth. Using his trademark straight-talking approach, Rogan takes apart Walz's comments with sharp humor, breaking down each exaggerated claim one by one. He doesn't hold back, and that's what makes it so entertaining. Others have also noticed Walz's attempts to prove his so-called toughness, whether it's boasting about physical feats or showing off everyday tasks like fixing a truck. The reaction from the public seems mixed between laughter and confusion. Many people are simply amazed at how over-the-top it all feels. After suffering a decisive loss too, Walz appears to be throwing everything at the wall to stay relevant. Instead of addressing reality, he doubles down on increasingly crude remarks. Rogan, meanwhile, calmly and cleverly puts those statements under a microscope, exposing just how hollow they sound. Political slip-ups aren't the end of the road, so stick with me. What really matters is how figures like Joe Rogan help keep politics both honest and entertaining. Now, not everyone fits that mold. Before we go further, do me a quick favor. If you enjoy creative work that challenges the norm without losing its realness, consider hitting the subscribe button. No pressure at all. I'll still be right here. All set? You're a legend. Greetings from the team. All right, back to it. So here we go. Joe Rogan has never been shy about sharing his thoughts, especially when he thinks something is pure nonsense.
About Biden and Kamala. What do you think you do if you're either of them now? Like Trump's just running ragged, flying high, having all of this fun. What are they doing? Like, what do you do when you've lost two people have lost a campaign in the space of 6 months?
I don't know. Tim Walz is out there talking again.
Did you say he could fight any Trump supporter?
Yeah, he says he kicked their ass and they're scared of him because he could fix a truck. Because they're threatened by his masculinity. I know how to fix a truck. So he said, like, do you? I bet you don't.
The lady doth protest too much.
I bet you don't.
I fear.
I bet if I bring a broken truck to you and a bag of tools, you're fucked.
That was kind of the redress, right? That was the attempt. It was like, we're gonna the symbol of masculinity on the left is going to be Tim Walz. It was Aragon, really? Aragon from Lord of the Rings, and Tim Walz.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I think they're lost. I mean, they're also lost in that they can't control the...
This time, his focus is Tim Walz. And to be fair, Walz has recently made a few comments that are, frankly, hard to take seriously. Picture a politician boasting about fixing trucks and claiming he could take down a supporter. Walz, really? That's the backdrop. Despite losing the election, Walz seems eager to prove his toughness by insisting he can repair anyone's truck and somehow pose a threat to his political opponents. It's the kind of moment that makes you stop and ask, what are you even saying? Naturally, Joe Rogan had plenty to say about these odd claims during one of his shows, and he didn't miss a beat pointing out just how strange it all sounded. Rogan jumped straight to the point, breaking down Walz's comments with the blunt honesty and sharp humor that listeners expect from him. His method is simple. Take these over-the-top claims.
That Tim Walz fucker, if that guy got into power, like if Kamala died and Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, was our president, you know how crazy this country would be? That weirdo who puts tampons in the boys' room, and what about our Joy? Like, he's a complete pathological liar. Like a complete liar. Lied about being in Tiananmen Square, lied about being a fucking head coach of a football...
Test them and see which ones survive. Spoiler alert, almost none of them do. Honestly, watching a political figure try to build influence through such exaggerated talk is both funny and a bit discouraging. Rogan made it clear that instead of flexing toughness for attention, Walz would be better off focusing on issues that actually affect everyday Americans. And that's where Rogan really shines. People don't have to agree with everything he says to recognize his strength. He knows how to cut through noise and speak in a way that feels real. So what's going on in Tim Walz's head right now? After such a major loss, it's likely a mix of embarrassment and frustration. Since his campaign fell apart, he seems to be searching for anything that keeps him in the conversation. Some might say he's trying to save face, while others think he's simply flailing without direction.
Bugs me in a way that is probably unhealthy. And, but I have to be careful about being a smartass. I was making a joke. These people have no sense of humor. They are the most literal people. But my point was they're all mad, and I, said something I didn't, probably shouldn't have about a company. He is agreed. So I make the case. They're all butthurt about the Tesla thing, but they don't care the disrespect they have shown to employees at the Minneapolis VA who care for our veterans, and they fire them. They don't care. So we will have the conversation.
Sure, there's something amusing about such an awkward attempt to appear confident, but at the same time, that level of desperation can feel uncomfortable to watch. That's where Joe steps in. He doesn't just get laughs, he points out a deeper issue. Walz' truck-fixing stories and tough talk don't line up with what people are actually dealing with. When families are worried about the economy, rising crime, or just paying the bills, flashy displays of bravado don't matter, and Rogan makes that disconnect impossible to ignore. Rogan points out something crucial. Real leaders build honest connections with the people they represent instead of getting lost in flashy political theater. This isn't a punchline. It's a serious criticism of shallow tactics that distract from real issues. It's the clear difference between leadership that matters and politics that feels like a performance.
About efficiency in government and about doing that, but none of us believe for a second they're thinking about this. Oh, we fired everybody that's dealing with Ebola, and then he went into the Oval Office wearing a hat. I don't ever want to hear anybody talk about decorum and respect or that. Wearing a hat, coming in there, richest man in the world. Again, this maybe just me. If I'm the richest man in the world, I'm like out on the streets handing out the money. It'd be fun as hell just to help people out. Go help people out. Not this.
Walz either doesn't grasp that difference or chooses to overlook it. Joe's message about authenticity hits home for many listeners. A lot of frustration today comes from politicians who spend more time making bold claims than dealing with real problems that affect everyday lives. You could say Rogan's take goes beyond comedy. In a way, it serves as a wake-up call. Funny enough, his podcast often sounds more grounded than much of the political talk filling the air. That brings us to the bigger picture. Walz has a history of exaggerated stories. Remember when he suggested he was a high school football coach or hinted at being part of the Tiananmen Square protests? Those stories didn't quite add up. Rogan openly addressed these gaps, pointing out the inconsistencies and stressing why honesty matters. And who better to do that than someone who values openness? Whether people agree with Rogan or not, it's hard to deny that he's upfront about what he believes, and that's the kind of transparency many want from leaders. Rogan also draws attention to the larger issue of politicians living in their own echo chambers, disconnected from everyday reality. By questioning claims, sharing context, and poking fun at fake displays.
Said, like, the American people, I talk like they do. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're a huge liar, like all politicians are. I don't care, by the way. I've always said this about politics. They're all going to lie. They're politics. It's what they lie about. I don't give a what you did during the Iraq War. You were in the Guard. So I don't understand why they just can't. You're just insulting my intelligence. When she said, what did you say when Biden called you and said he wasn't running? Well, I immediately thought of him first.
He encourages people to think more carefully about what they're being told. And honestly, isn't it refreshing to hear someone cut through the noise and say, let's pause and really think about this? Talking about independent voices in today's media landscape is just as important. Joe's takedown of Walz goes beyond simple jokes. It's a reminder of why hearing different viewpoints matters, instead of blindly following a single narrative. In an era where messaging is often polished and controlled, honest, unfiltered voices play a critical role. They challenge accepted stories and help keep public discussions grounded, even when not everyone agrees with them. That kind of balance is especially valuable in uncertain times. And it's worth noting that Joe's interests aren't limited to politics alone. He also draws sharp contrasts between influential figures like Elon Musk and Walz. Walz's criticism of Musk, for example, reveals a focus on political image rather than recognizing real-world contributions. Rogan points this out clearly, explaining how Tesla's presence has brought jobs and clean energy projects to the state. From his perspective, attacking Musk while benefiting from those outcomes simply doesn't add up, and Joe makes that contradiction impossible to ignore. Especially right now, political leaders should be building connections, facing problems directly and closing the gaps within
Really rooting for an iconic American company to fail in this manner, to root for people who are living off of their investment income, living off their capital gains, people who are in their 60s, 70s, who are retired, who are just living off of their dividends, whatever they're rooting for them to fail is nothing short of disgusting. It's not about Elon Musk. It actually is virtually nothing to do with Elon Musk. This company has a ton of employees, workers who work at the manufacturing mills, and you have investors there. So it's really about, I mean, come on.
their communities. That's the job, isn't it? It's disappointing to see Walz let ego-driven behavior distract from what should matter most. As Joe Rogan points out, this style of leadership feels disconnected from what people actually want and need. That's where humor plays a key role. Joe manages to inform while entertaining, using sharp wit to break everything down. His take isn't just criticism for the sake of it.
That because he's not operating at a particularly high intelligence level, if I'm just calling it like I see it here. You know, there actually are some moderate-ish Democrats who are not going like full, complete, utter, disgusting jerk when it comes to the issue of Tesla. So, for instance, Ro Khanna, who comes from Silicon Valley, he plays footsie with a lot of the big tech bigwigs. You know, he had an interview this past week, Rita, where he said, "I'm not rooting against Tesla. Tesla employs 20,000 people in my district." Okay, thank you for speaking some common sense there. But Tim Walz doesn't really know common sense from the other side of his foot there. I mean, this man speaks drivel, and when he's not speaking drivel, he's speaking far left ideological pablum there. Thank God this man is not the vice president of the United States right there. I mean,
By poking fun at Walz's over-the-top remarks, he shows that holding politicians accountable doesn't have to be grim or exhausting. It's a reminder that public figures can be challenged without draining the audience. There's also a message aimed directly at politicians like Walz. The old playbook doesn't work anymore. Recycled tactics and image tricks won't fool a public that's more aware than ever. People can see through the performance. Rogan keeps coming back to the same point. Leaders need to stay grounded, put in real effort, and back up their words with action. Trust and stability come from closing the gap between talk and results. It's clear that Rogan's critique connects with a wide range of people, even if some dismiss it as just a celebrity's opinion. Many feel ignored by politics and want leaders who understand real concerns, rising costs, public safety, economic opportunity, not exaggerated rivalries or shows of toughness. So now, it's your turn. What do you make of Walz's behavior? Does Joe's criticism hit the mark? Or is it just another act in the political spectacle? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective matters, and the conversation doesn't move forward without it.